Hi, welcome to week 5 of oil pastels. Today we're going to do a reindeer, and we're going to have a little focus first on fur, noses and eyes. And here's one I did earlier. I've done a couple here, and what we're going to do, you should have some worksheets which have a structure on them, and that's what we're going to do primarily. This is how I drew this. I break it down into circles and squares and triangles, and this is the worksheet that we'll be using. And as you can see, again, if you're creating a portrait, this is how you would do it. So what we're looking at here is how to structure something, and an animal in particular, and obviously trying to create the illusion of fur and three-dimensional reality to a point with oil pastels. It doesn't matter which colour paper that you use. I think I used black and I've used white, but I'll be using grey for this. But whatever you got, whatever colour you've got, and the bigger the better, because with oil pastels I find I can't always get quite in there, even though I had to use A4 for those preliminary sketches, because the only reason being is that I didn't have any A3. So I'm going to show you this on A3. If you do only have A4, don't worry, it's fine. So this colour does not work, no. I can see it, but I don't think you can. So I'm just going to do it in black. You might not want to do it in black, but definitely do it in oil pastel. But I'm going to do it in black just so that you can see the structure more than anything. So all I'm doing, I'm following this worksheet that you have here. I'm just drawing a couple of circles as is shown in the diagram, and I'm just going to work my way through all the different aspects of this. So the reason that I personally prefer to draw like this is because I like information on the page. So when I start drawing, I think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? So I've got a blank piece of paper in front of me, and I've got to get that, whatever it may be, figure or object, onto here, and I just have to put something down. So if I plot it out in a way that I can understand it, I can understand what the relationship is between that part of the object, or the composition or whatever, and this part of the object, then I'm sort of okay. And obviously joining them up, you're constantly looking at the positive and the negative spaces all the time. So I mean, this looks nothing like a reindeer at all. In fact, it looks like some sort of squashed insect, but all will be revealed, obviously. And putting these loose guidelines in well, for me, it helps me 100%. I don't think I could draw without doing this. And you see all these things on YouTube where they do it really quickly, and they're just drawing it straight away, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, is that possible? But I don't know if it is possible, to be honest with you. There's a lot you can do with video editing, but because this is a Zoom video, I can't edit this, so what you see is what you get, I'm afraid. Yep, my insect is looking very strange now. It's sort of, I think it's evolved somewhat to it's got only 4 legs. Yes, I'm just blocking in the antlers. Antler is a difficult word to say. They always say in Welsh, if you can't say the double L, which is F, the closest thing in English is the T and the L in antler. So just a tip if you happen to go to Wales, although you can't at the moment, obviously. Well, you could go to Anglesey, I suppose. But yes, that's that. Okay, so I've got my pencil there, and I'm just pointing out just a couple of little things that I wanted to pop in, just where my oil pastel is a little bit on the chunky side, so I wanted to put a few bits of fine detail in just around the antlers, because I'm not actually going to finish this. I'm not going to colour it in. That's your job, unfortunately, for you, because I'm I've already done two. so yeah, so I don't want to ruin all the fun. But if you have to go in with a pencil, then by all means go in with a pencil. It's fine. The only problem with pencil I find with oil pastel is that if you press hard, then that mark might show up when you go over it with oil pastel. There's nothing you can do about it. More about the indentation, and sometimes as well with the graphite, the oil is somewhat repelled by the graphite. Normally you can get around that. It'll sort of squeeze over the top. It won't be so defined that you can see it, but occasionally, if it's a big bit of graphite, then you might run into a bit of trouble. So what I'm doing here, I'm filling in the legs. I'm finding out where they go, and again, this isn't still the finished drawing. I'm still only fleshing out what we already have and putting that in place. But as you can see, again, this is really helpful. It's still quite sketchy. Yeah. The reason I'm doing a voiceover, I'm not entirely sure what happened to the audio that I actually did in class. So there are some things I'm not sure what I'm talking about. So I'm not entirely sure what that was supposed to be, but never mind. So yeah. I don't know what happened to the audio, and this is why this is taking a long time to produce, because I don't know what happened. I think it's something to do with the Zoom, but I recorded another one in the afternoon. It was fine. I'm just showing you here how, rather than putting that strange shape in, you can see a triangle there. So as I always sort of try and say when you're drawing, circles, triangles, squares, and lines. That's what you want. You can't really see this, so I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm speaking to somebody in the class. I'm not entirely sure. Yes, I'm demonstrating where the triangle goes. That's correct. So I do apologise for the voiceover, but it was a lot more interactive, and I wasn't too impressed when we didn't have any audio, because I've got to spend half an hour trying to remember what I said on Wednesday, and today is Sunday. So again, I'm just fleshing out the legs. Feel free to fast forward if you need to when we get onto fur and eyes and so on and so forth. This is sort of, you can see it sort of jumping into life, I think. It's sort of coming slowly but surely. And yeah, a little bit more work to the antlers, but you'll find that you just jump around once you've got all that information, once you've got the actual proportions correct, then you can jump around all over the place because the information is already there. So you don't, it's sort of up to you which part that you want to work on. You can do a little bit of antler and nip over to the tail. You've got all the information, and that's all drawing really is. Drawing and painting is information and its relationship to other information. So, like I say, once you've got everything sort of in place, then the good bit happens. My favourite, definitely my favourite bit, when you start fleshing everything out. The first bit is quite sort of. You have to concentrate quite a lot, I think, when you're building the structure, because you're constantly looking between positive and negative space all the time, and that can be quite brain consuming, really. So as you can see, here it is. Here is that structure of the reindeer. So hopefully you get to that point. I would encourage you to do this and then move on to creating another one that looks a lot more realistic. So feel free, obviously you can colour this in or anything like that, but what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to create the fur, as you can see on this one, the fur is quite smooth, but I've tried to create a few little bits of depth and this sort of impression of fur, just with a few little sort of stippling techniques and a few what do you call it, shadowing techniques. And on the other one, which looks really strange, the ears are really odd, and the leg, but that's the way it was, so that's what I was going to draw. I must admit, the internet is quite. Oh, there you go. This is what I'm pointing at here. That the fur I've actually created. It's much more sort of furry. I've gone in there with a cocktail stick and I've pulled quite a lot out. But I'll demonstrate how to do fur in a minute. And these are just some I did earlier. So there's a nose. I mean, they all look very strange out of context, I must admit. A nose always looks very odd out of context, I think. A nose needs a face, or at least an eye, to give it some, to give it some sort of purpose. Otherwise, I don't know, it just looks very odd. Yeah, so with fur, what I'd start doing is drawing these shapes. So they're sort of like spearheads, because if you look in any hair or fur, you'll always find these sort of dark bits, and they always look sort of an elongated triangle. So I start by popping that in first. I pop in the dark values, and then obviously you can't have the dark without the light, so I'll go in with some light, white in this case, and then what I'll do after that, I'll go over it with, I'll start building up some colours. So look at the fur, look at what colours are in the fur, and you will be able to sort of pick those out. You have them all nicely lined up. So I'm going to go in now for a sort of, I think I've got a mid-brown, I've got an ochre, and a brown, like and a mid-brown, and hopefully a Van Dyke brown. Oh, I didn't have one, so I'm having to get someone to find one. Hey, Jackie, to go and get me a Van Dyke brown. So I've got 3 different shades. So ochre, obviously, it's a browny yellow. There you go. Thank you, Jackie. There we go. So I've got an ochre, I've got a mid-brown, and I've got a Van Dyke brown, which is a dark brown. If you've got any other pastels, you might have a burnt umber or a burnt sienna, so they'll work perfectly. I mean, most animal hair, I suppose, it's reindeer hair. I don't know, are they all the same colour? I'm not entirely sure. But so I'm just starting with the lightest colour here, and I'm going to build that up to the darkest colour. So it really is up to you. The beauty is with oil pastel is that you can work either way. To be fair, you can go. I mean, we started with dark and we went over with light. With oil paint, you generally start with dark and you'd work to the light. But you can sort of do this with oil pastel to a point. I prefer to start light, like you would in watercolour. But add the darkest of values in, so I sort of have that information again, so I know where I'm going. So at first it just looks a bit like a bit of a sort of a brown rainbow, really. It doesn't really look like very much until you start putting in various strands and working back into it. So, it's taking some sort of semblance, I think. Obviously I'm going to go in and blend as well with this. I've got my blending stick. Gosh, I was hoping that was what was going to be next. So blend in those colours, so you get a nice sort of varied range, nice sort of gradient to work from, and then you can start putting in the details, which is my favourite bit when it comes to life. Sorry about that. So I've got a few problems there. Yeah, my white. The thing is as well, you have to clean your clean your oil pastel, especially your white, quite a lot, because it will pick everything up from the bottom. So I'm just going with that dark brown, and as you can see, something is happening with the fur. I'm just using strokes that are here, there, and everywhere. So because when you look at hair, really, if you look at hair on your head, or if you've got a pet, have a look at their fur. Obviously, it's not all going in the same direction, you know. That's what makes it look so organic. Well, I suppose if you've got a short-haired dog, then it is. It is generally, but that's another lesson for another day. But if it's a bit longer, you've got some flowy bits. So I'm just going back in and looking at those darker shadows, and I'm just popping the white and the black, because obviously to get a shadow you have to have a highlight. That's the only sort of way it works. So and I'm just going to pick out with the cocktail stick, or obviously I've got something a little bit more elaborate from the hotel, and I'm pulling that out. Now you can't really see that very well on the video, I'm afraid, but it does look quite effective if you were up close. Try and use black sparingly as well, just don't go wild with the black. I'm going to now draw the eye, I hope. Yeah, I think that looks like an eye that I'm drawing. So I'm just using the charcoal pencil. The shape of animals' eyes aren't exactly like ours, obviously. They're sort of a lot bigger and a lot more, it's a slightly different shape, especially with cows and you know, beasts such as reindeers and such. So what I'm doing here, I'm just popping in the basic shape, I'm popping in the catchlight and the pupil, and I'll mark up that catchlight. I'll get that nice and white, because that is the thing that we always see when we create an eye. And I'm just going to go in again. I'm keeping the same colours as we used for the fur, and I'm going in with my lightest colour here, and that's the yellow ochre. Sorry about that again. I'll just get rid of that. So yeah, I'm just putting that all over. So I've got a good base to blend the darker shades. I'll get that right into the corners. And then I'll just go in and start building it up. I'll build up with that mid brown, that sort of reddy brown, because what you're trying to do is achieve sort of like that spherical look of an eyeball, really. And you can see that shape then. You can see the different. I mean, hopefully you have this image here, so you can look at it a little bit closer. So what I'm saying there is that you can sort of see the different colours, and you can see the different shape of the eyes. So it looks a bit weird, it looks a bit psychedelic at the moment, but all will be revealed, I promise. So I'm just going to blend that together and create that sort of like an orangey gradient. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to keep building this up and up and up and up, so we have something that resembles an eye. Because at the end of the day, it's art, and that's all you can ever hope for, really, is something that resembles something, because it's never going to be it. Right, so this is where it sort of starts really taking shape now. So you get in the darkest value. So you get in the Van Dyke brown, and then you can blend that. And you can see that it's quite. It's sort of coming there. It's sort of coming. It's all to do with these dark values that takes it from this sort of flat rainbowy image to something that looks quite spherical, really. I do like the way that oil pastels blend, I must admit. There's something quite I don't know, is there something quite mindful about oil pastels? I always feel, you know, that when they start blending, I don't know, it gives you quite a satisfied feeling, I always think. So I'm just popping in the pupil now, which I'm popping in black, I will tone that out a little bit so it's not too much. I'm just going into the corners. Again, I'm trying to create that shadowy look so that we've got something to base that sphere on. And as you can see, it's starting to take shape now. It's starting to look three-dimensional. It's starting to look like an eye. I'd like to think so anyway. And I'm just going to blend this out a little bit because obviously your pupil isn't a stark contrast. I'm just putting a little bit of black in the corners there, just because obviously if you look at anybody's eye, that's that's where it sort of is quite dark. And again, because it's spherical, where the light isn't actually getting to. So if you can see that. I mean, if you wanted to, you could put a few sort of strands of, I don't even know what they are, like sort of little veiny things that you have in your eye. I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but we'll see. I'm sure that somebody knows, not just me. So I'm just putting a little bit of brown in that pupil just so it doesn't look quite so stark. You might not be able to see that, but it just tones it down. It stops it making it look quite so obvious. And yeah, so I feel that's okay. So I'm quite happy with that. So we're just going to do the nose now, and the nose, like I say, looks a little bit odd out of context. So when you're looking at the nose, just try your very best to look at the shape. I know it sounds a bit of a silly thing to say, but just take yourself away from it being a nose and just look at the shape, because it's very odd. You know, when you do look at a nose, when you do actually sort of cordon it off as such, with a viewfinder, it's a very strange shape. And your brain tries to tell you it's not like that. For some reason, the brain tries to tell you everything about the face, eyes, noses, ears, hair, whatever. Whether it's on an animal, whether it's on a human, it doesn't really make any difference. But so I'm just sketching in this schnozzle, just from the shape that's obviously on there. And like I said, it just looks a bit odd. But again, it will be okay. I hope. I think it was okay. I'm using a charcoal pencil. You don't have to use a charcoal pencil, but I do like a charcoal pencil, I must admit. They're really quite satisfying to draw with too. They're a bit sort of, they have more sort of resistance, I think, than graphite. Graphite can be a little bit, it can run away with itself, you know, the nature of actual graphite. So I'm just popping on the main highlight, which will more than often be from the top, unless obviously the animal is lying on its head. Yeah, so the light will shine down, obviously, from the sky. You don't really see them in the house. I wouldn't have thought. I don't know, maybe somebody. So the same principle with the various tones. So I'm using a grey now, because obviously it's quite black. The nose is quite black, so I'm using grey as my mid-tone. I think I've only got grey and black, so I'll try and blend those two together as much as I can to create sort of the gradients that you can see in that nose. So I'm just going all over with the grey, and then I can go in with my black. So I'm looking for the darkest areas. You can do this at the beginning if you wanted to as well. You know, I always like to go really for the dark values as soon as possible, the dark and then the light values, but and then deal with the mid tones afterwards. So yes, I'm just popping in where the light definitely doesn't shine, so in the nostrils and down below, and that's what will start giving us that three-dimensional look again, because we're creating that gradient. I mean, it does look weird. It does definitely look strange without the rest of its face, but you can see where it's going. So yes. So it looks a little bit mucky, but you know we've got the blending stump, and that's always a winner. So blend that away, and you've got the grey underneath to assist with the blending. So excuse the noise in the background, that's just my dog having a drink. She likes to make herself known. Surprised she's not crying for something or other, some treat. So if you can see that now, you can see that I'm getting quite a good array there of grey black tones, and it's starting to take some sort of semblance. Noses are peculiar things. I always think that. But you know, I would definitely recommend that you try the eye, the nose, and the fur separately just before you started your main image. I would definitely do the construction as well. So if you can work that like that, you know, basically that's you doing some studies into the final thing really. And yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of stippling just to create that sort of moist nose, because obviously the majority are moist. It does look better in the flesh, actually. Not the nose in the flesh. I mean the drawing. So just I can't resist. I just have to put a mouth in there because it just looks too weird. And now it starts to take a little bit of shape. You can see that a little bit more. So I'm just adding a little bit of white, and well, as you can see, I'm just building that up. You don't have to go to you don't have to do this. It's honestly just wise to practice a little bit, because noses are possibly the hardest bit that you'll find. So hopefully that is looking a bit more nosy, really. I'd like to think so. Yeah, I'd like to think I'm reasonably happy with that nose. Okay, so I'm going in. Oh yes, this is what I was trying to describe. If you're having trouble with your composition, make some thumbnail sketches and work out where your composition is going to go, because obviously when something's got antlers, it needs quite a bit of room. So it's always quite wise, and then you can work out exactly where it's going to go. So that's what that was about. One of the students asked me that question, and that's how I normally do it. So thumbnail sketches are always a bit of a lifesaver, if I'm honest, because they can solve a multitude of problems, especially one about composition. They're a good way. So say for example you were in I don't know, you were doing some urban sketching or something from life, then a thumbnail sketch, you can determine where and what you see in context, because you know you've got that peripheral vision, so it's quite hard to sort of digest, really, I think. But when you thumbnail it, then you can focus on that area. It's an absolute godsend. So thumbnail sketches are always very highly recommended by me if you're doing something from life, or if you're just trying to fit something on a page, and every time you stick it on, because it's you know, you start drawing it and then you end up running off the page. You're like, oh gosh, I've got to go and do that again, and then again, and then again, you know. So thumbnail, you can thumbnail will tell you everything. Well, I like to think anyway. It's not foolproof, obviously, but yeah. So just working into that nose again, and I think that it's definitely looking like a nose. I'm happy with that. Definitely, yes. Oh, I'm putting a little bit of brown in there, obviously, because it's what I can see on the actual picture. So just make sure you always draw what you see and not what you think. I know that's an age-old adage, but it's massively important. So I hope that I wish you the best of luck doing this. It's quite difficult to a point, but it's really enjoyable. So I hope that you'll have as much fun as everyone in the class did, and as much as I do when I do things like this. So thanks very much.